is going on, my friends? Welcome back to another video. We are in the shop. It is Friday evening and we are going to be getting some work done on the Shorty build. So we're going to jump back on this thing. I do believe that we have worked on the truck off camera and it's kind of snowballed a little bit further than even the last video was at. And I kind of need to do some explaining and kind of just let you guys know exactly where we're at with the truck. We have got an absolute metric crap ton of parts in the bed, stacked up everywhere inside the cab. I mean, it is getting out of hand, but honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way for this build. It kind of excites me, and sorry, I almost just dropped the camera there. If we're gonna take half of it apart, we might as well take the whole thing apart. So that's kind of where we're at, that's kind of what we're doing, and it's just gonna end up becoming honestly a mini 05 build, and I'm pretty pumped about it. It's gonna be like a mini 05 twin. So we have got all of the wiring ran, routed, and somewhat situated. And as you can see over here, we have removed the battery, the TIPM, every single thing from this side of the engine. This is kind of like our wire tuck that we never did on the 05. You are not going to be able to see pretty much anything on this driver side of the engine bay. That was the goal. We've actually got the TIPM inside the cab now. It's not mounted up. We really just wanted to see if we could move the TIPM inside the cab without modifying the harness one bit. So we were able to accomplish that. TIPM is in there, all the wiring is in there, all of that stuff will go there, and what we'll end up doing with a lot of these big plugs that were like right here next to the master cylinder, those will go up through there into the cowl. So we might get into that today, I'm not exactly sure, but really we're trying to get to the part where we're putting on all of the new stuff. We are gonna go crazy powder coating all of this stuff, but I really need to get the truck together and then take it somewhat back apart to kind of accomplish what I'm going for. So we've got a different valve cover. We're going to be changing this plate here, which means when you take off the fuel system, our factory fuel filter isn't going to be here. We're actually going to reroute these power steering lines. We're going to ditch our ABS pump like we did on the 05. We are going to rob some parts that the 05 used to use that aren't being used anymore, like the A2 race upper coolant pipe. We've got a set of electric fans, and we're going to keep the Mishimoto radiator. And I think what we're going to do is take the old turbo setup off of the 05 and run it on here. Also, on top of that, we are going to change out this lower coolant outlet, because on these 6.7 engines, as you can see down in here, that little 90 metal piece off the back there is kind of like press fit into that piece. I'll get it off and I'll show you guys, but in order to run AN style lines off of the firewall connection, you can see one of the hoses goes from here to the top of the cylinder head, which we're going to change that to AN completely, and then this other one down here that's going to run along the side of the block, and it goes down to that lower outlet. We need to change out that entire piece. In order to do that, you have to take off the alternator, this lower coolant hose. So honestly, the whole front end of the truck needs to be taken apart. The coolant is still out of it, so it makes perfect sense timing wise to do that. On top of that, I kind of promised Michael, I was like, we're not taking out the heat, we're not taking out the air, I don't care, we're gonna run it all, we're gonna make it look nice, custom. We're not gonna use anybody's kits, we can make all of our own stuff. We are gonna reroute air conditioning lines, rerun those heater lines, and kind of clean all this up. But what I'm getting at is, if we're going to steal the 05's old turbo setup, the way the hood stack was ran on this and the way it was made with the wastegates, the connections for the AC were cut and trimmed on the 05, and I'm not sure if it's because of the back side of this pipe, but we do need to check that out so we know what we're getting into. So we're gonna end up test fitting this eventually. That's the plan, to run this, because then we've got single turbo gates and just a whole lot of partiness going on. Seeing that this has just turned into like every nut and bolt build, there is still a lot of stuff that needs to kind of come apart before new stuff goes on, and that's kind of where we're at. Nothing to it but to do it, but lots of stuff to take apart. You know, this will all go away. Change, do. You know, just a whole lot of magic that's gonna happen. We're gonna jump in, get some things done. And when I say jump in and get things done, I really hope that we just stop uncovering any hidden things and stuff, and we can actually just get past that part. This apart, just a quick talking clip, maybe some tips, tricks, pointers, kind of what not to do story of this truck. Looked like there may have been a fluid leak, maybe potentially coming from, like, say, these fittings right here. Kind of makes sense in that general area. That's where that trans cooler is kind of sitting. Actually, a really nice trans cooler kit, really nice, big. I had a lot of people tell me really good things about that trans cooler kind of in this location. Obviously, airflow is key for fans, coolers, all that stuff. You want it up front. So we're gonna kind of go over that of like what I would almost technically recommend. I would say those coolers in the front are really nice. All of the remote mount coolers that we do in the back of the truck, which we're gonna end up going to on this truck, not necessarily something I would completely rely on for something that you're driving a lot. That cooler up front actually does a very good job, so I wouldn't quite exactly ditch that. I want to go to electric fans for a couple different reasons. Honestly, it's a lot of cosmetic reasons, just because I really dislike this fan shroud, the factory fan clutch, all that stuff. It's just kind of big, bulky, and for what we're going to be using the truck as kind of like a toy almost. It's not going to be doing any like heavy stuff. They're going to be perfectly fine. It's not going to be towing a massive trailer. This intercooler is actually pretty dinged right here, and I think in another couple locations right there. So another reason why we're not going to be going back with that specific intercooler. I've gotten a lot of questions about fans before, because we tend to run them on, like, I'm going to put them on this. They're on the 05. If you are going to be using a truck to do any type of a lot of towing, even moderate towing, I wouldn't ditch the OEM fan. The OEM fan, I believe, does move more air, does a better job, and that thing moves some serious air. So wouldn't necessarily go ditching that if you're looking for better cooling power. And the other thing that we kind of learned about is these Flexolite fans, they draw some serious power electrically when they kick on and off and they go into high. Because the 05 with a single battery, man, when those fans kick on, you can actually see the dip in how much they're drawing. So just take that information with what you will. A couple of interesting things here. Again, story of this truck. So missing a little bit of hardware. If you guys watched the last video, you guys know we're missing a core support here, which we're gonna find and put back in. But as you can see, we're down to really the front of the engine, and we can see this is the cast piece that we're going to be changing out. We'll go ahead and get that out. What else? The other reason we can kind of ditch these brackets that hold on our fan down here, we'll clean it up. We'll probably take this off. I'm going to change the front cover on this thing. I just honestly, I don't trust anything that's been done to this engine. I might even get to a point where I take the damn cylinder head off just because I am going to be able to sleep at night. A lot of you guys are powder coating this piece right here. And I believe this sensor, while every truck here is stock, I don't believe that it is completely necessary. I can't remember exactly, but a lot of guys will swap to the 591s. That's basically what I'm getting at. If we can lose this chunky, big, bulky thing, run the 591. The 591 doesn't have this, and if you don't need this specific unit, you can run the 591. It looks 1 million times cleaner. So we can lose this bracket, we'll change this, gives it an overall cleaner look when you've got a powder coated engine. I believe we've got some FLEECE pulleys that we're going to be integrating at the same time. One day, very soon, this thing will be absolutely beautiful. We're getting there, slowly but surely. So if I can't remember the last time I updated you guys or the last time we talked and kind of went over things it has been far too long and probably a lot of stuff has happened. So let's make sure you guys are up to date before I just keep blasting along and you guys have no explanation of anything. So I know we mentioned that we wanted to test fit the 05's previous turbo setup to the one that's on it now. And I say kit or package deal because the manifold, the wastegates, the turbo, the hood stack, the intercooler pipe down to the actual intercooler that was in the truck has stayed together. And we did that on purpose because it really integrates very well with the way that this pipe was kind of Van Gen to the intercooler, the way the nitrous was already kind of set up in the truck, goes along with that stainless diesel 5-blade 80mm charger. So we really wanted to save that, and we didn't reuse any of it on the kit that's on the truck now. We didn't use anything. So really, this is honestly a perfect candidate to reuse that, seeing that it is a 3rd gen style truck. The hood stack will be in exactly the same spot that it was the 05. So really when we say mini 05, I mean, we're really going right after it. My biggest fear with this kit is that we were gonna have to make a decision whether to remake the hood stack or do something with the AC lines. The best news of this entire truck so far is that I think we're gonna be able to accomplish both. We're not gonna have to remake the hood stack and those AC lines. While they are close, we should be able to kind of protect them from the heat, and they should work. You can kind of see I have one test fitting there, and we're gonna do some custom lines, put some things some really cool places. Again, I'm really trying to go after a very specific look in the engine bay as much as we can, without, I mean, it's already full crazy. Let's just put it that way, but not full crazy, right? So that looks good. I'm super happy with that. We're gonna go ahead and move along and actually test fit the rest of it with the intercooler, with the fan. As you can see, we've taken off more things and stuff along with that water outlet piece that we're gonna show you guys here. Went ahead and labeled the entire engine harness. We did find some plugs, and I already showed you guys, like, we've got these sensors and connectors that have just seen for some reason so much better days. I don't know, they got stepped on, crushed. There are some wire repairs that we do need to do inside this harness. Honestly, it's just easier to take the whole harness out with where we're at. It's really almost already out of the truck now, the way that we were doing things with the wiring. So I labeled everything. We're going to take that harness out. We're going to fix it. And at the same time, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to unloom everything, because the loom in this truck sat out in the Sahara Desert for 75 years and is crumbling in my hands. So it's no different with the engine harness. So again, it's like just the snowball, right? I'm gonna pull the harness out and do all that. It's gonna take some time. We are remocking up our fuel lines at the same time. We've got a different plate here. We're gonna get our different valve cover on here, but let's go over some of the parts that are kind of chilling over here. So again, started with trying to rob some parts off of the 05. This was actually a regulated kind of feed and return style. We've actually got the non-regulated one with a little less fittings, because if you guys remember, dual pumps on the 05 belt-driven FLEECE kit. We do not have dual pumps on this, while we could actually swap that whole kit right now. I'm just thinking about it. As of right now, we're gonna put this block on. That's gonna take care of our feeds, our returns, you know, jump us up to something much nicer, something much more organized. As you guys saw, we removed our factory fuel filter canister that wasn't even being used. It was just kind of resting in place. So rerun fuel lines. We're gonna go ahead and run everything to AN style with this kit. We've got our coolant upper pipe. Again, sticking with air conditioning. This is the lower piece that I wanted to show you guys on the 6.7 trucks versus the 5.9 trucks. As you can see, this part right here is threaded. This piece is like, I don't even want to call it a press fit or what. You could probably get that out and spend the time to tap it and do all that, but it's just something that I've never really wanted to mess or fool with. So the 5.9 trucks already come threaded. We can go ahead and put this on, and then when this is oriented in the truck, I'm trying to do this one-handed here. You guys can see right here, that's how it goes. And then those threads right here, that is going to run alongside of the block and go up and connect back there on the firewall, the one that's facing down. The top one is going to go over here to the top of the cylinder head. So we're gonna do that, and we also have to install the coolant bypass. Of course, our boys at Fluid Damper, this was actually from the 15. We've got some really nice fleece pulleys that we're gonna do at the same time, which ties right into, did you guys know Fleece made some really nice, sexy front covers? Just a sexy piece right there that is going to actually fit perfectly on this truck. Gotta have that nice 12-point hardware there to go along with it. So very, very nice piece. If you guys are in the market for a cover, got you covered. Black, I'm sure they got polished on there too as well. But we're gonna go ahead and utilize this with the truck. But again, we need a new front main seal. And I have called about every single place, and seeing that it's Saturday and we live in Bowling Green, Kentucky, everything shuts down. The whole entire world. It's unbelievable. You know, I'd say that I am kind of with you guys at certain points while I'm doing this. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I know some of you guys are like, what is he doing? The further we go, the more it almost stamps in stone to me that it is completely necessary to go this far, because it's just giving me basically, the further I go, the more insurance I have of anything previously touched. And again, at what point, I don't really know, but I would have never seen this without taking the harness off. But yeah, I mean, there's only 3 bolts that hold that big starter on, and one of them's missing, so you're down 33% holding. And the positive cable wasn't even tight on that, so that is not good connection wise. You know, have a big positive cable that loose and missing hardware. So again, if you think I'm crazy, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong, because I am, but I'm just saying, in my opinion, if you're gonna try and drive this truck problem free for any considerable amount of time, this is what it's gonna basically take. If you ever wondered what an engine harness looks like on the ground, there is both sides of that, all labeled up, and we will, I think about half the plugs are really not being used from factory stuff. Again, AC stuff is all staying in there, but just some other plugs that are not being used. All right, so while we're grabbing this starter out of here and we're doing all this talking, I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about trying, like, everybody always asks, like, hey, what do I look for in a truck? And a lot of different stuff, different generations, all that stuff. And most of the time, it's find the most stock grandpa has not been touched truck that you can find. That's my answer. If you can find what you're looking for, price range, all that stuff, with decent maintenance records, because it's going to have some, because these trucks are just getting so old, but the lowest mileage, which is not always an indicator of the best shape, because I've seen a lot of low mile stuff recently that has not been clean, but the amount of owners as low as possible and as grandpa as possible. When we went and got this thing, it's in a different category. I knew that it was going to be a potential project. I knew I was going to work on it. I didn't want to do paint, body, or all of the chassis work. This stuff doesn't really bother me, but I really did not want to start a fresh project. I would rather make this sick than start it from scratch. I'm sure you guys have been there and done that. Like it's 50-50, right? You end up redoing a lot, or you know, you do it yourself, and it could take a little while. So chose that way on this one, and here we are. Not mad one bit. Just for fun, I got a torque wrench set to 150. I'm gonna see. Obviously, it's cold. I'm gonna see if any of these head studs move at 150, which hopefully they don't. But oh yeah. All right, I'm gonna start at 90 and see how much they move. Let me see. Oh, that wasn't that bad. All right, also before we put our brand used valve cover on here, we're gonna go ahead and check the valve lash as well. I'm not sure what they were set at, obviously, but not terrible, but right now it's on number 6 top dead center, so that's why I'm checking the opposites. Yeah, definitely a little loose, probably not that big a deal. Like I said, if we do a hot retorque and the head studs move, it's gonna change it anyway, so as long as nothing is crazy out, I might even rotate it around just to check number 1 top dead center, just to be confident that everything is good. But again, the truck was running fine. For anybody that's gonna ask, nothing crazy, I just do 10 and 20. Really, very, very minor. I wouldn't even consider it loose. I'll go ahead and just double check that these are all torqued down correctly, and then we'll move on. We've got our valve cover for the Shorty truck. We actually picked this thing up brand used, I would call it, and we actually had this 03-05 rocker box laying around because we did get that one with the valve cover, but it's purple, and purple's not really my color, so we just kind of went through that whole entire process just to use this black one. Again, this is a 03-05 valve cover. You can put it on a newer truck, but it does require some modifications to a couple different things. Some intake horns don't really work correctly with it, and the injector plugs need to be addressed and changed, which we are going to end up going through and do on this truck. The 05 is actually just an 03-05, so it actually bolts on way easier than obviously adapting it to a newer truck. So it seems like a nice, you know, it's a marine Cummins valve cover off of different applications. The previous owner had those bungs welded in, which we're gonna have to take a look at and see, because you guys will see that this is very, very tight against the firewall, or the cowl. It doesn't really get cheap when you add in all of the extra things and stuff that you need to, say, just a normal billet valve cover, if that's what you're gonna do. So this is what we decided to use because it kind of like matches the 05, which I think is really, really cool. So we'll go ahead and throw this stuff on, really just temporarily mock up, get it all sealed up and covered back up inside the engine bay, and kind of roll on and trying to do a couple more things because this evening yet I still need to work on this thing. I'm not sure if you'll see that in this video or not. I'm not sure. I just gotta make some adjustments, some tweaks over there. You guys fill in the blanks, people please. There's only so much we can do here, but anyway, yeah, let's put this stuff on. Let's stop rambling. What do you think? I take bets if a normal number 10 fitting is gonna fit in there. Got some test ones. Well, it is very, very tight, but regular fittings do work all the way back in there. So even if we found fittings that were just a little bit shorter, that would even help just a little bit. So we'll see if basically it's this style. They make them in kind of like hydraulic style fittings as well, but they do make some like low profile. This is a number 8, but you can kind of get the gist. It's a little bit more of a hard 90, and sometimes these save a little bit more room than the radius ones. So we'll try and get some measurements on that, maybe switch to that. Here's the old catch can from the 05's old setup. Well, current old setup. Back in the day, we were running this Vibrant catch can, which is actually much bigger, and these are actually the original lines from that. We ran it from, the valve cover was actually over here on the side, our ports were, and it kind of came all the way up into this corner over here. I think on this time, we might try and keep them short and simple and kind of hidden a little bit better, and just maybe tuck it like right up in that corner, move it over here, something like that. I've even thought about kind of going through the cowl up into there and then dropping them down over here, but it's such a short run, and I think if we're going to put anything, we're just going to keep one area where things have to go around the master cylinder anyway. So anyway, it's really just small details. I wanted to just make sure these fit. I'll probably take them off, cap the fittings there, and we'll kind of move on. You guys can see the injector plugs, how this could be in the way of certain ones. First one we tried out really wasn't actually in the way. It didn't seem to care. The second one, the behemoth that it is, it definitely hits. So we had to run. They actually make these in straights, but I was seeing if we could get away without actually getting those. I should have knocked out that freeze plug while this nonsense was in the way, because you can get to it really easy from over here. Maybe you still can. Oh yeah, you can. Heck yeah. You can go right up in there. There's the return port off the back of the head, and there is your freeze plug. We'll just lay right about down there. Your old whacking device. Give her a good schwack. Be all right. Make her happen, Captain. All you really do is just try and find a corner as best as you can, and just hit this corner so it just comes in just a little bit. I didn't try and like fully rotate it out. I really only got it to where you could just see this edge enough, and we went ahead and used pliers that looked like this and grabbed the edge just like so. But if this is sitting in there, I only really moved it just a little bit, and you don't want to use anything too sharp. This was our unit right here. You can see it's got kind of a, it's definitely got a modified edge, whether that was intentional or not, but it wasn't very sharp. It's just blunt. So really just stuck this right in the corner like that, hit it hard enough to kind of rotate it out and pull her right out. Not sure if you'll really be able to see this or not, but on the edge here where it's in the block, it just kind of forms these little deposits of, build up, corrosion, rust, what have you. The next big step is, you don't want to cut the O-ring going in with the bypass. So looking at the back of the engine here, you've got your plug out of the back. What you need to do next, instead of just going ahead and trying to slam in that coolant bypass with the O-ring, you're going to want to take some of that red Scotch-Brite that probably comes in the kit and clean up that circumference and get all that build up. That way when you push that O-ring in, it doesn't get cut right away. And we'll go ahead and we need to attach our AN style fitting to the return off the back of the cylinder head. So if you ever go to pull your cylinder head and you're like, man, something's hanging up and I can't see it, make sure you've got the return off the back of the cylinder head. That'll get you every time. So while we're in our lazy boy down here, we'll go ahead and take care of some of that.